Ryan had never considered himself a superstitious man. He was practical, methodical, and believed in logic above all else. So when he stumbled upon a once-in-a-lifetime real estate deal, he didn't hesitate. The house was massive, with a sprawling garden, a spacious terrace, and a charming, rustic appeal. It was tucked away in a quiet suburban area, close to a beautiful lake and a dense forest, the kind of place where someone could settle down, grow old, and enjoy the serenity of life. But the unbelievably low price should have been his first clue that something was off. It had been abandoned for years. The real estate agent was vague about its past, brushing off questions with phrases like, "The previous owners moved away suddenly," and "It just needs a little work." Ryan wasn't deterred. He loved DIY projects, and this house presented the perfect challenge. He imagined restoring its former beauty, making every inch of it exactly how he wanted. So he bought it, and from the moment he stepped inside, he knew he had his work cut out for him. The walls were cracked. The floors creaked with every step. Dust coated every surface, and the air inside carried a strange, musty scent. None of that mattered to Ryan. He rolled up his sleeves, determined to bring the house back to life. What he didn't know was that the house had a life of its own. It started innocently enough. One evening, after a long day of renovations, Ryan sat outside in his garden, enjoying the warm glow of the setting sun. The air was crisp, the birds chirped softly, and for a moment everything felt perfect. Then he heard it. A soft, rhythmic sound, a faint stomping noise from inside the house. He dismissed it at first. Probably just the house settling, he told himself. Old houses always made strange noises. But when he stepped back inside, the sound was gone. He shrugged it off and continued working. The next day it happened again. This time, Ryan was painting the walls of a small bedroom on the first floor. As he moved his paint roller up and down, he heard the sound again, a distinct stomping coming from above. He froze, holding his breath. Was someone inside the house? His heart pounded in his chest. He listened carefully, but the noise stopped just as suddenly as it had started. "I'm just imagining things," he muttered, shaking his head. But deep down, he wasn't so sure. As the days passed, the noises became more frequent. Ryan tried everything to figure out where they were coming from. He checked the attic, the basement, and even the old ventilation system. Nothing. There were no signs of rodents, no stray animals, no structural issues that could explain the sounds. Yet they persisted. Late at night, he would hear soft whispers, almost like someone was crying. And then the whispers turned into something worse. A voice. A low, muffled voice from somewhere above him. At first, he thought he was hallucinating. The stress of renovating the house was finally getting to him. But then, the voice spoke again. One evening, as Ryan was making himself a cup of coffee, a loud thud echoed from upstairs. He dropped the mug, shattering it on the kitchen floor. This was real. He wasn't imagining it. Something was inside the house. Gathering his courage, he ran upstairs, determined to put an end to this nightmare. The moment he stepped into the hallway, the noise came back, louder than ever, and this time it was coming from the ceiling. His pulse raced as he grabbed a hammer. "Whatever this is, I'm going to find out." He positioned himself under the source of the sound and swung the hammer into the ceiling. The first hit cracked the plaster. The second hit sent a chunk of concrete crashing down. He widened the hole, his heart pounding, and then he saw something move inside. Something, or someone, was up there. Ryan peered inside the dark opening, his breath caught in his throat. At first, he saw nothing but shadows. Then, from the darkness, a voice emerged. "We are finally free!" Ryan stumbled backward, his hammer slipping from his grasp. As the dust settled, a pair of small figures crawled out of the hole. His eyes widened in pure disbelief. They were children, dirty, disheveled, and grinning mischievously. The kids, no older than 10 or 11, burst into laughter. "You should have seen your face," one of them cackled. Ryan's fear quickly turned into confusion, and then frustration. The children explained that they had been using the abandoned house as their secret hideout for years. They had discovered a small hole in the roof, allowing them to sneak in and play whenever they wanted. When Ryan bought the house, they weren't happy about losing their playground, so they decided to scare him away by making noises, whispering, and stomping around when he was inside. It had all been a prank, one that had gone way too far. After his initial shock and anger, Ryan couldn't help but laugh. The kids had succeeded in terrifying him, but in the end, no harm was done. Instead of scolding them, Ryan made them a deal. They could still play in his yard any time they wanted. The kids cheered, promising never to scare him again. "But it was so much fun," one of them grinned. Ryan shook his head, grinning back. "Next time, just knock on the front door, all right?" Ryan let out a deep sigh of relief, shaking his head as he watched the kids burst into laughter. All of this, his sleepless nights, the paranoia, the hammer to the ceiling, had been a prank. At first, he had been terrified, certain that he had stumbled upon something sinister or supernatural. But now, standing in the middle of his half-demolished ceiling, covered in dust and debris, he realized he had been outwitted by a group of mischievous neighborhood kids. "You guys really had me thinking I was losing my mind," Ryan admitted, rubbing his temples. "We just wanted to scare you a little." One of the boys grinned. "We never thought you'd actually break the ceiling." Ryan let out a dry chuckle, still processing what had just happened. The children, no older than 10 or 11, began explaining how they had used the abandoned house as their secret hideout for years. "Nobody wanted this place," one of them said, "so we made it ours." Through a hidden hole in the roof, they had climbed inside and used the empty attic as their clubhouse. They had brought flashlights, pillows, and even a stash of snacks. "We didn't mean to make you go crazy," one girl giggled. "We just wanted to spook you so you'd leave." Ryan couldn't help but be impressed. Their dedication to the prank was incredible. "Well, congratulations," Ryan said, still trying to shake off the nerves. "You nearly made me sell the place." But just as he was about to send the kids on their way, something unsettling happened. One of the boys looked up at the dark hole in the ceiling, his grin fading slightly. "Wait," he mumbled. "Did you hear that?" Ryan froze. The kids all went silent. A low, creaking noise echoed from inside the attic. Ryan's stomach twisted. The kids were all right here in front of him. So who, or what, was still up there? One of the younger boys stepped back nervously. "That's not us," he whispered. Ryan's hands tightened around the hammer, still in his grip. He had thought the mystery was over. But now, standing beneath that dark, gaping hole, he felt the hair on the back of his neck rise. "Okay," Ryan muttered. "No more games. Who else is up there?" But the kids looked just as terrified as he felt. Investigating the dark attic. Determined to end this once and for all, Ryan grabbed a flashlight and a small ladder. The kids backed away, their faces pale, watching as he hoisted himself up through the hole and into the attic. The air inside was thick with dust, the wooden beams old and splintered. Ryan swept his flashlight around, his pulse thundering in his ears. At first, he saw nothing but cobwebs and forgotten debris. Then, in the farthest corner of the attic, something moved. Ryan's flashlight landed on it instantly, and his breath caught in his throat. Nestled in the attic, hidden beneath a pile of old blankets, was a small, makeshift bed, and beside it, a bundle of old, tattered clothing. The realization hit Ryan like a truck. Someone had been living here. Ryan's mind raced with possibilities. The kids had used the attic as a play area, but this setup was different. The blankets were carefully arranged, the clothing looked well worn, and beside it he spotted something that sent a chill down his spine. A half-eaten, moldy sandwich. Ryan's stomach churned. Whoever had been here hadn't left long ago. Ryan climbed back down, his face pale as a sheet. "Did any of you actually sleep up there?" he asked, his voice shaky. The kids shook their heads quickly. "No way," one boy said. "It was just for fun. We never stayed long." Ryan hesitated. "Have you ever seen anyone else in there?" The kids exchanged uneasy glances. Then one of them spoke. "There was a man. Once." Ryan's stomach dropped. "What do you mean, a man?" he pressed. The kids shifted uncomfortably. "We don't know who he was," the girl admitted. "We only saw him once. Kind of. One time when we came in through the roof, we found old blankets in the corner. And there was food. Like fresh food." Ryan's skin crawled. "So someone was living up there before I moved in?" The kids nodded slowly. "Yeah, but we never saw him. Just his stuff." Ryan knew what he had to do. That night, after the kids had left, he secured the attic entrance and called the police. The next morning, an investigation confirmed his fears. There were signs that someone had been living in the house, recently. Scraps of food, footprints in the dust-covered attic, and even faint cigarette burns on the floorboards. But whoever had been there was long gone. After everything, Ryan couldn't shake the eerie feeling that he had been sharing his home with an unknown guest. Though he tried to convince himself it was just a squatter, something about it didn't sit right. Had someone been watching him all along? Had they hidden in the attic while he lived below? Ryan decided not to take any more chances. Within a few weeks, he had finished the renovations and promptly put the house back on the market. He never told the buyers about the attic. And as he drove away from what was supposed to be his dream home, he found himself glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see a figure watching him from the upstairs window.